Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. And this week, let's ramble on. Okay, my first note is Painter Man didn't paint the wall. I don't know what that means. I'm going to remove that from this list. I feel like I remember seeing a Painter Man not painting a wall, like he was on a ladder standing next to a wall outside a restaurant or something. But I don't know. That's not a descriptive enough note for me to continue on, so let's keep going. Patreon. I'm trying to figure out how to do a Patreon for this podcast. I haven't decided on tiers. What do you think? I feel personally like $5 is a little too much because I know how poor U.S. Americans are, and they're wealthier than most of the rest of the world. So I'm thinking of like a $1 tier, but I don't know what to put up there. I have a bunch of video game playthroughs I've recorded. I kind of want to sing songs. And I can't sing, but I think that would be funny Patreon content for anybody who wants to listen to dumb songs I make up or covers of songs I like. That's got to be worth $1 a month, right? And also, I don't need that much money if I'm traveling, so $1 seems pretty fair for anybody who likes this content and wants to keep it going, wants to support it. $1 a month would certainly keep me afloat if I had 100 subscribers, which, if you're wondering, I don't. I don't have 100 listeners, but I'm just dreaming. So move on. I was in a restaurant, and don't worry, this episode won't be all food. But I was in a restaurant trying a new food, trying the tallarin pesto, which is like a fried noodle pesto dish, except the noodles weren't good. They were so bad, actually, I haven't got noodles again because I'm worried that noodles in Peru are bad, and I finally found the first thing that are actually, like, I don't like the tripe, the big intestine, but it was prepared very well. That was obvious. These noodles were prepared poorly. The pesto was fantastic. The green pesto they made, clearly fresh, delicious. But the noodles were way overcooked, and I was like, guys, these are just like soggy spaghetti noodles, my friends. I still ate, I'm not going to say half of them, but almost half of them because the pesto was so good. But I was pretty surprised by how bad the noodles were. And now I want to try the Chinese restaurants here and see if the Chinese noodles here are also terrible. And that's just how Peruvians like their noodles. I don't know. It's a new culinary mystery for me to look into. I have to go waste money on tallarin, which are noodles. Tallarin, chow mein. I wonder if that's another loan word from Chinese. Chow mein is like fried noodle, and tallarin is fried noodle in Peruvian. Interesting. Anyway, not food. I was in that restaurant waiting for my noodles, and I looked up at the TV and I was like, oh my gosh, because Micah Monroe was on there, and she's like my favorite actress. She's that girl in It Follows, and she chooses really interesting, usually weird sci-fi-y or Black Mirror-y movies to be in. And she's a good actor, for sure. But she's just odd. She looks a little odd. Her eyes are very large, and she has a very elfin nose. But she's a great actor, and she chooses really interesting projects. So I love seeing her on screen. I was really excited because I didn't recognize this movie, and I've seen most of her stuff, but certainly not all of it. And after I watched it for like 5 minutes, just like, man, this is great. I was like, oh, snap, it's Brent Spiner. What is he doing here? And then I realized it was ID4 too. It was the second Independence Day that I think I saw in theaters. But at the time it came out, I wasn't a Micah Monroe fan yet. I don't think maybe I had seen It Follows yet. But now I recognized her again. I was really excited. And so while I was waiting for my fried noodles, I just kind of was like happily watching Independence Day 2 again. Kind of want to see it again now. I forgot Brent Spiner was in it too. I also wasn't aware exactly of who Brent Spiner was. I hadn't watched any Star Trek at that point when I saw the movie, so I don't know, it'd be interesting to watch it again because I had a not great memory of that movie, but knowing all these actors and being more aware of the cinematic process years later now, how long is it? A decade after? I think it'd be fun to go back and watch it again and see, especially Micah Monroe. I'd be curious to see her acting 10 years ago versus now, because she was great 10 years ago in It Follows. She's a great actress. That's why she keeps getting good roles. Long Legs. Got to be in a Nick Cage movie. Great in it, too. That was her, right? Yeah, she was an FBI agent. It was awesome. I could watch that again. That dude's so weird. Has anyone ever said that? Has anyone ever said Nicolas Cage is strange? Okay, so Independence Day 2, kind of want to see it again. Now I'm thinking about Long Legs, kind of want to see it again. I'd rather see a sequel. Let's see, I got some thread and I've been strengthening my pockets for my jacket because after so many countries in a row, like 3 countries in a row, I have to use my airport luggage, my jacket luggage. Those are the pockets I've sewn into the inside of my jacket so I don't have to pay baggage rates. I just put all my baggage in my jacket and wear it. I think that's going to keep happening. If it's happening all across Central South America, and I've noticed it in Asia also, I think everything's just going to cost money, but not yet anyway, they don't weigh your body or your jacket or your clothes. So I strengthened all the pockets in here so they'd be sure to hold all of my baggage so that I can fly free. I've also finally fixed up my sun sleeves, which were just good, but they didn't look very clean. They didn't look like they had clean cuts and sews, and they didn't look great. And now they look pretty cool because they look like the old one that I spent a lot of time on. And yeah, I just spent an afternoon really fixing them up and making them efficient and looking cool. Poultrygeist. I haven't finished it still. I made it an hour in. There are a couple things I like. That movie's insane. I'm not huge into trauma things. I don't know. I don't like gross stuff a lot. And trauma, I mean, it's gross. And it just keeps pushing the gross props relentlessly. And Poultrygeist is no different. The 8-minute diarrhea scene, not my favorite. Don't like looking at diarrhea. But I'm glad it exists. I'm glad the movie exists. It's still, I love creative art, and Trauma is about as creative as you get because they just let you do whatever you want. And they do some crazy stuff in Poultrygeist. And I did laugh a few times. That's the other thing. They're so wild that it's always a novelty at the very least, even if it's not particularly enjoyable. I still had a few good times, but I haven't finished the last 30 minutes because it was tough pushing through an hour of like poop and barf jokes. And it's amazing that they made the movie at all, considering, well, the story behind the movie and considering how low budget it is. It's just amazing that people make movies at all. It's crazy. Fun enough to watch. Not a recommend so far, probably. Unless you like gross stuff. If you like gross stuff, then I recommend all of Trauma, including Cannibal the Musical, my absolute favorite Trauma movie and one of my favorite movies of all time. That's Trauma, right? Let me check. Yeah, I only knew about, I think, The Toxic Avenger, which I didn't get super into the first time I saw it, and I haven't seen it since in like 20 years. But I should probably go back because of its reputation and accolades. But Cannibal the Musical, that's how Trauma became a thing in my mind, because I love that movie still. It's so good. If you don't know Cannibal the Musical, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, creators of South Park in college, made a musical about the first American cannibal, Alfred Packer, and it's super, super, super funny. It's very well made, considering it's a Trauma movie, super low budget. They got their friends, college professors in it, and they did great. It's really funny, and it's a fast story. It's really fun. Can't recommend it enough. Man, that was recommended to me in my first year of college by a girlfriend who likes B-movies and it was recommended to her by her brother. So thanks, first college girlfriend's brother, for that recommendation, because that has stuck with me my whole life. More than half my life. I've been alive longer than the time before I knew about Cannibal the Musical. Or I guess I doubled it. But still, half my life I've known about Cannibal the Musical and been a better person for it. I love that movie. I used to use it as a litmus test for when I had a new girlfriend. I'd be like, hey, have you seen this movie? It's like really funny. And if they watched Cannibal the Musical and cracked up, I was like, okay, this is a good person. And if they didn't get it, I was like, we're probably not going to work out. These jokes are gold. He loves his horse. Spadoinkle. Boy, I love that movie. But I can't watch it because I've watched it too much. So I have to just wait until maybe a next girlfriend, and then we'll watch Cannibal the Musical together. So a guy asked me to help him, well, not really help him move to Portugal. He had already decided to move to Portugal, but he just wanted to know about Portugal. And so I just gave him a bunch of advice and told him about my experience there, even though I wasn't there that long, maybe a couple months. I can't remember. It wasn't super long. But I just told him about all the visa procedures and the ancestry stuff and the language and what he could expect moving out of the U.S. for the first time and why it was 100% a good idea. And he seemed a lot more sold on the idea. Like I said, they were already going there, but he wanted to confirm that he wasn't making a mistake. And I was like, nope, go. That is a very good idea. He's living under Trump, where civil rights have been disbanded. Women don't have access to health care. The prices are exploding. It's crazy to live there. And of course, regular rent has been terrible in the U.S. since the first Trump administration, there's been a real crisis, and he doesn't want to live with that. Oh, plus the gun violence, right? Gun violence is a huge one for him. They have a kid, and he can't imagine putting his kid in schools and even having his kid in an American city because there's a shooting. Let's check. In 2025, there have been 30,000 shootings in 2025 so far. So that's about 100 shootings every day in the USA. 2/3 of those are non-fatal, and 30% of those, a little over 30% of those, 35% of those result in a death. So if this guy who's leaving the US wants to keep living there, as he told me, he's terrified of the gun violence, just stray bullets catching his kid or his wife or his parents. So they're all moving to Portugal because in the US, 100 shootings a day means that there is a shooting every 12 minutes in that country where someone is injured. There are more shootings where people aren't injured, but every 12 minutes, someone is either getting injured or 35% of the time dying in the US from a gunshot. And he doesn't want his family or kids anywhere around that. Every 12 minutes is a lot. And someone's dying every 15, 20 minutes, something like that. No, 36 deaths per day. So that's like every 40 minutes, one of those people are being killed by a gunshot in the US. And of course, there's school shootings just about every day in the US. Yeah, he was really concerned about the gun violence, and you cannot blame him when every 10 minutes someone's getting shot. All that terrible business aside, it was really good to talk to someone who reached out, needed some help with travel advice and, the visa procedures and just language in general and how it felt to live abroad, and if he was making the right choice by leaving this incredibly violent country where everybody is terrified of each other. The U.S. is a quite scared country, whenever I visit it anyway. And it was good to talk to someone who needed a little bit of direction, and I could let them know that the decision they made sounds like the right one to me. I don't want to get shot. That's not the reason that I'm not living in the U.S. I don't feel super unsafe in the U.S. I stay out of gunshot-heavy areas often, but a guy was shot in the head right outside a restaurant while I was eating a hamburger in my quiet Denver neighborhood while I lived there a couple years ago. So it's just a fact of U.S. life that you kind of have to live with if you're going to be anywhere near a city. There's more on the East Coast than the West Coast, but really anywhere in the country. It's at the prevalence, it's at the rate. Every 12 minutes, there's a shooting that results in an injury or death that you're just not going to avoid it by living on the West Coast instead of the East Coast. Guns are too popular in the USA. Luckily, the new generations don't seem to be as interested in shooting each other, and they don't seem to be as scared of each other as older generations of US Americans are. So hopefully that is changing. I'm happy that guy reached out and felt more comfortable with his decision about traveling and got the information he needed. If you want to leave the US in particular, but if you want to travel in general, just contact me, bitofarambler@gmail.com or bitofarambler on Lemmy and Blue Sky, and I will give you accurate information and advice and encouragement. There are plenty of great reasons to live abroad. It doesn't even have to be that your country's terrible. There are just huge benefits to living abroad in general, and it might help to talk about them. Moving on, a dog bit me. I got dog bit on my hike up a southern Cusco mountain. There are over 11,000 stray dogs in Cusco, a number I know I came across since I looked it up. And all the guidebooks say that the locals pick up a rock when a dog seems to get too aggressive and you're worried he's going to bite you. If you pick up a rock, the dog goes away. I can confirm that is true. I did it when there was a angry, aggressive-looking dog. This time I didn't. I said, whatever, man, and I turned away, and then this big German Shepherd-y fella bit me on my thigh, a big honking bite, and I yelled at him and he went away. There were two dogs also barking at me. I was up this mountain, not too far from the city, but it was a mountainside, so there weren't any houses except for this one. And I was walking by it. I think the dogs didn't hear me. They got scared when they finally did notice me, and they ran out and were very aggressive. And one was a shepherd anyway, so he was big and aggressive. And when I didn't use my stick or a rock, and I turned away, that dog bit me. So just like in Thailand, if you are in a rural location, you need a stick, or in Peru, a rock, to deter aggressive rural dogs specifically. Although some of these city dogs have been kind of jerks, but I am outside of the city center. So when I went hiking the next time, I definitely carried a stick with me, and I'll just have you need a dog whacking stick. You need one in Thailand, you need one in Cusco, especially if you are a explorer, self-directed discovery kind of hiker. Take a stick with you because dogs get aggressive out in the sticks. So you need some sticks. But as soon as you have a stick, as soon as you have anything in your hand, it's just like Thailand. If you're holding anything, dogs are like, all right, fine. And they just don't bother you. But if you don't have a stick, even the little dogs here are very yappy and have tried to bite me before. Cusco has a lot of stray dogs, and there's like a program to feed them and stuff. But I'm like, guys, you can put down the dogs. It's fine. There's a lot of dogs here that nobody's taking care of and are basically feral. Animal euthanization makes sense to me in certain scenarios, and there are a lot of homeless sick dogs here. I would never put down a dog specifically for biting me, but I have seen these dogs attack a lot of people, and people walk around with their kids pretty comfortably. It's definitely strangers the dogs seem to go after, even though I've seen them going after locals. Maybe it's a stranger to that neighborhood. But if there are too many animals and they're not being cared for, and they are a public problem, like they are biting people, euthanization makes sense to me in that social circumstance. Which I know is a pretty controversial topic in general. And it's a bit ironic because in the US, you don't have that problem because you don't see many feral animals on the street. But the reason is we have pretty solid euthanization programs in place so that you don't see the stray animals on the street like you do in a lot of other countries. Boy, bummer topics. All right, let's move on from the bummer topics to Red Hot Chili Peppers pizza. There's a pizza place called Red Hot Chili Peppers. I thought that was cool, but I can't find it again. There's a lot of pizza restaurants here, and I can't stop trying them. Red Hot Chili Peppers song. I don't know, I kind of want to try it, but I already found such a good pizza restaurant. Maybe it's worth it. Maybe the third pizza restaurant will actually blacken the bottom of the crust and it'll just be a perfect pizza restaurant. Why not try it? Why not? Why not? Because I don't have any cash. I got to get cash out of the ATM. I'm down to the last soul, so now I can only use my card. You know what's interesting about Cusco? Cusco is so dusty that I'm curious how much dirt the people eat out here. It must be like Kansas or something. There's just dust blowing around constantly. So if you get an ice cream, there's going to be a little dust on it. And if you're eating a meal and the door to the restaurant's open, there's probably a little bit of dust on the food. Probably not a lot because you're going to eat it. It comes out right away. But there's just so much dust. And the snacks on the street. I'm curious how much dirt people eat because there's bacteria in dirt, and there are empirical experiments that show eating dirt is healthy for you. When you're a kid, develop your gut bacteria. And I'm curious if that's also true for adults, and if Cusco people have healthier guts because they're eating this dust all the time when the wind blows. It certainly doesn't flavor the ice cream you're carrying or any of the food. And I know that because I had ice cream. There was crazy windy dust, and I was like, good, the ice cream tastes normal, so it's not that bad. The dust, I mean. The ice cream rocked. I didn't write that down. I tried this lemon meringue with little bits of pie crust inside. Dude, what good ice cream. They make all their ice cream by hand here, I think. And it's very tasty. So I started watching this TV show, moving on, called I'm Not Okay With This. It stars that girl that became super popular in the new It movie, Sophia Lillis, I believe is her name. And I thought she was good in the It movies. I thought she was really good in the Dungeons and Dragon movie. She's okay in this movie. The graphic novel of I'm Not Okay With This is so good and so emotional. It's kind of hard to have to simplify all that into a small 30-minute TV show and get any kind of the same punch. But what's interesting is that in the TV show, she talks about these zits on her thigh that she gets, and she shows them, and the zits on her thigh are in the exact same place and almost the exact same formation as the dog bite I got from that German Shepherd. Because when he bit me, he broke the skin, but he broke the skin through my ripstop pants, so the pants didn't let his actual teeth go into my skin, so I wasn't too worried about rabies. I was a little worried about rabies, but since the pants weren't ripped at all, I was like, it's probably fine. But I did have a whole bunch of teeth marks pointed there, and they're small. I don't think I'm going to have any scars. But when I saw that TV show, she was like, oh, look at these thighs, zits. They're the grossest things. She pulled down her pants. And I was like, hey, that's the exact place and formation of my dog bit marks. So that was cool. Cuckoo, the movie. I'm excited to watch that again. I'm going to go visit family. My mom likes horror movies, and I've been showing her weirder movies lately, so she expands her tastes a bit. Because she'll watch crap. She'll watch a movie or miniseries or TV show that she doesn't like just because she doesn't know other options exist. Like, she watched this 8-hour miniseries that she thought was bad just because it was there. She's like, I'll just keep watching it. Yeah, I don't like it. And I was like, well, why don't you watch anything else that you do like? And she was like, I'm already watching it. I'm just already in it. So I want to show her Cuckoo because that is a great movie, horror flick, but it has a lot of elements that work really well together. There's psychological horror in there. There's creepiness in general of old man creeping on young girl, bit of insanity mixed in. And there's also just graphic, upsetting scenes. So a lot of things that you would fit really well into one that are generally one movie. It's like, this is about body horror. This one is psychological horror. This one is, and this mixes, it's quite a pastiche of a lot of different horror elements that fit really well together. And it's written well, and it's acted very well. Who's Hunter Schafer? Is that her name? Yep, that's it. Hunter Schafer. She was the best friend in Euphoria, and I thought she was really good in that. Everybody's good in that. Well, most of them. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them aren't that good. But I was curious to see those actors outside of that show. And Zendaya, obviously very good. Hunter Schafer, after watching Cuckoo, I'm like, yep, that's a real actress. She's great. Oh, man, Cuckoo has such a good... several scenes, but they have such a good... I don't want to spoil anything. You should go watch Cuckoo if you like surreal horror, psychological horror movies, because that one is great. New jacket luggage pockets. Oh, are these new? I didn't mention this. So I have the one main pocket in the back where I carry my t-shirts usually because they're very bulky in the bag, but I've added 2 new inner breast pockets to the jacket, which I have strengthened, as I mentioned, the stitching. And so now I can fit my electronics on one side and my health pack on the other side, and I still have the hip inner pockets and the hip outer pockets to fit all the other stuff in my bag. Pretty much the only thing I can't fit in my jacket luggage is my microphone kit, which probably would fit, but if I just have my laptop and my audio setup in my bag, it's small enough that I can get it on a plane. And everything else is in my jackets, all my clothing and all my gear, which is pretty funny, but it works great. And the jacket's not too big that it looks crazy. It's just a little oversized for me. But that's great because then I have all this space and everything fits and I don't have to pay for airplane baggage. Oh man, we're moving along. We've got through like 15 things on the list. I was kind of worried I would be like the last one and I'd only get through, 5% of my list and it'd already be finished. But we're doing pretty good this time. Moving on to the next TV show I watched, How to Die Alone. Great TV show. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's very real. And it's a black cast, so it's just part of the show. They don't have to insert, this is what it's like to be black, because everyone on the show is black, so I'm white. It's a dynamic that I'm not familiar with, and I don't watch a lot of all black shows, so I certainly can't tell how much of this is, like how much of the weird family dynamics in it. Like if it was not an all black show, the weird family dynamic in it, I'd be like, what a weird family dynamic. But because it's an all black cast, I'm like, are they trying to say something about social structure in black families or like how that works? And half the time they make it explicit so I can understand, yes, this is a black issue. Racism is a problem. But the story itself is so strong and so well done. The comedy is funny. I like pretty much all the characters. It's great. It's a good show that I highly recommend that only lasted 1 season, which is fair. I feel like she should have just made it 1 season, but I also think it's probably like her first creative project. She made the show, the main star of it, and kills it in the show. She's also a great actress. So I see why she wants to push it as far as she can, but I think she could have done it in just 1 mini-series, but maybe she had a lot more to say. Who knows? Anyway, How to Die Alone. Funny, good show. Oh, it's really interesting, too. All black cast. I mean, there's white people in the show. There's Asian people, but the main characters are mostly black. One of the guys is an albino. And that was interesting to see because I don't think I've ever seen an albino with that large a role where they never once mentioned that he's albino. And he might be the best actor in the show. So it was really interesting to see someone where the point of the albino wasn't that he was an albino, which I think is all I have ever seen in TV shows or movies is the albino. They have to at least dwell on it that he's albino. What, Banshee, the TV show, that albino, he's almost just a caricature of a villain, and his whole defining trait is, 1, he's evil, and 2, he's albino. There's, of course, Powder, which is albino and weird for a whole other reason. But anytime an albino is on screen, they're like, and he's albino. And this guy is just a good actor in a show, and nobody has to be like, look at his different colored skin. I'm just kind of glad that culture media has moved past it, or at least is starting to move past it, since this is the first time I've seen an albino where they don't make a whole thing out of it. It's just, and like I said, he's a great actor, and they don't have to dwell on it. It was very nice that it's, when I meet someone on the street, if I meet an albino, or if I meet someone with vitiligo or missing a leg, that's not the first thing I talk about. I interact with that person like a person first. And in this show, they finally did that. They were just comfortable, maybe because it was a Black character-centered show. They're more conscientious about disability/minority status. And they're like, yeah, people live with it. We live with it all the time. Live and let live, and be kind to people and treat them like people. People are cool. I like people. I mean, I don't like to be around them all the time. I definitely have a private room most of the time, but I like talking to people. People are good. People deserve people respect. They deserve basic human dignity and decency. Dirty Money, the song. There's a song called Dirty Money by Ida Maria. She's like Nordic from something. This song is good. It's a fun party song. And the line is, "Give me all your dirty money. I'm your favorite monkey. Watch me go." Which I think is a great line for any performer. It's amazing that she came up with it. Maybe she didn't. It's fantastic. Very fun song. It's in Peacemaker Season 2 is how I heard it first. And I was like, whoa, that's going to catch my ear. And it absolutely did. And I have the song, and I've listened to it like 30 times in a row. It's great. I listened to it. I went through 2 weeks where it was basically the only song I listened to. And it's so fun. It has a great beat. So I was walking down the street grooving to it. Great song. Good song. Good one, Ida Maria. James Gunn, whatever. He chooses good music. Because Foxy Shazam is the intro. Did I mention that? To the new Peacemaker Season 2? Foxy Shazam? Like the best rock band frickin' ever. They're so good. Foxy Shazam is so much fun. And they're in Peacemaker Season 2 every frickin' episode. What a good decision. I'll say the first musical number in the first season, I do like that opening musical number more than the Foxy Shazam musical number, but I like Foxy Shazam more probably than most other music on the planet. Freaking love that song too. The song he chose, Julian, is probably my favorite Foxy Shazam song. It's called Oh Lord, not Julian. Julian. It's a hungry world. They're gonna eat you alive, son. Yeah. What a good song. Let's move on. I started a Twitch. It is live question and answers for travel stuff. I'm usually just doing craft, like sewing something or watching a YouTube video or using, like, drawing a design or something, and I'll just leave on my little office hours sign I made so people can log on and ask me questions about travel. There's really only one dude doing it right now. There was one other person, but yeah, I definitely have the free time. If you want to learn about traveling and want some accurate, up-to-date information on that stuff, ask the dude who's out in the world and has tons of free time and is kind of bored. But seriously, even like 2 people, I'm like, boy, this is a lot of work. So maybe after 4 people start talking to me, I'll be like, all right, that's enough. No more, guys. But you should get in while the getting's good. Okay, so I think most people know at this point that the U.S. has a terrible healthcare system in general, but they actually don't even have the highest quality healthcare. I was talking to someone about this, and what comes up a lot when people are like, yeah, we have our problems, but at least we have the best healthcare in the world. And that's not true. So I had to get charts and all that kind of stuff. And the U.S. healthcare is still ranked really high. I think it's in the same way U.S. real estate is still ranked really high. It's just like legacy from when a generation ago it used to be that much better than the rest of the world. So you'll still find the USA on a lot of charts for the best quality, and they'll still be in the top like 15, which I don't think is practical. I don't think that's a practical rating of U.S. healthcare. But in any case, they're still at 15. Thailand is number 1 in the world for certain rankings. Like quality of care, Thailand has better. Equipment, Thailand has better. Professional expertise, Thailand is now beating the U.S. Like, it's It's Thailand. There are 10 to 15 other countries ahead of the US in all categories of healthcare. But Thailand, dude, it is so cheap to go get medical care over there. And dental care, it's great over there. And you're paying half any cost in the US. You're paying half at the absolute most for these procedures. Most of them, far less. 10%, totally doable. 10% of the US cost. So dental costs, yes, they're terrible in the US, but say instead of $600, you have to pay $60. That's swingable without insurance. And you can get insurance if you want to, and insurance does pay, but the premiums and the copay and all that kind of stuff, I don't even think it's worth it to get the insurance. It hasn't been worth it for me to get insurance for my dental work, I can say, because I've had a lot of dental work done. It's so cheap to get dental work, and I get the most expensive dental work in Thailand. I go to the international clinic. I pay the most. I get gold fillings, gold crowns, I mean. And it's still out of pocket for me. It's still perfectly affordable for me. Obviously, I saved a bunch of money teaching English. But instead of paying $3,000, $5,000 for a root canal and crown, my total cost for the drugs, all the different doctors, the x-ray, the root canal, the cleaning, the crown fabrication, choosing a pure gold crown, or gold alloy, as gold as it is. All of that stuff was less than $800. Actually, I just checked this up and I can't remember now, but it was something like $700. And that's 30% of the best US price you're going to find out of pocket. And these are the best dentists I've ever been to. The gold crown from Thailand has lasted as long as any of the US crowns I had. Best quality of care. I mean, they're such great doctors. They're so professional and so compassionate. And there's no time. My whole thing took a week, and the only reason it took a week is because you have to wait after the root canal a week for your mouth to heal, and then they put on the crown. But it is so much faster to get dental care in Thailand at a much higher quality and at a much lower cost than it is in the US. And that goes for all medical tourism. I don't have other internal issues generally. I've been very lucky with my health, and I try to take care of myself when I'm not drinking too much beer. The 1 meal a day is a big part of that. Give my body time to recover. But I will say, medical tourism, if the reason you've heard of medical tourism and you don't want to make the leap because you're like, well, the US does have the best healthcare in the world, you can look it up. Look up the lists. It doesn't have the best quality of care. It doesn't have the best equipment. It doesn't have the best expertise, and it just doesn't have the best doctors. The timeline of your care is, a swamp in the US. It takes forever to get medical care implemented at all if you can afford it, if you're one of the lucky 7% in the US who can actually afford US medical care. And afford is a relative term because then you're paying it off for years. If you have especially significant medical costs or a difficult medical procedure or permanent medical conditions that you need to pay for all the time, seriously consider medical tourism, please. The quality of care is better in a dozen countries around the world. The quality care is equitable in probably 20 other countries to the US. And it's pennies on the dollar. So if you're being crushed by medical debt, medical tourism is a great way where you have 30 different options with better or equal quality of care at a much lower price. So you can get out from under that burden. I just talked to someone else who was telling me about their medical costs, and they had never heard of medical tourism. And I was like, well, here, you're going to like this. Those medications you're talking about, they were paying hundreds of dollars a month, which is all the buffer most Americans have every month in their expenses. They were using up any money they would potentially save from their paycheck. It was going away on very generic stuff, blood pressure medication, vitamins to keep their levels normal, calcium, hypertension, just all that regular stuff that as you get older, a lot of people take. They were paying more than $500 a month on that stuff. And I told them that is over the counter, probably less than $20 a month for all of those different bottles you're talking about. Maybe less than $50 a month. Maybe it's only going to be 90% cheaper than the US, but I would bet on like 95% cheaper than US costs for blood pressure medication. But the quality of the medicine, nope, it's the exact same drug. It's the same chemical, but in most other countries, especially in those 30 countries I mentioned that are equitable or better than the US, the healthcare system is made to heal people. And I would include Peru in that. And as I've mentioned, this is not a wealthy country. This is a non-wealthy country. They're doing great with tourism. They're definitely getting money from that. Visiting Machu Picchu is incredibly expensive. But on the whole, it's a poor country. But you can go to the pharmacy and you can get your blood pressure medication, your hypertension, your insulin. You can get all the fundamental medication you need at pennies on the dollar, literally, at very cheap prices instantly. They're right there. If you need a prescription, you walk into any clinic, you don't have to worry about not being seen. You are seen. If you have the condition you're worried about, they'll write your prescription, you go get it. But in the US, all the prescription stuff that is not prescribed in other countries because it's mostly bureaucratic crap, you can get it over the counter. All of the basic medications, the most common medications, a lot of those are over the counter in most countries, and it's the exact same chemical and compound as the insulin that you get in the US or as the blood pressure medication you get in the US. It's the exact same thing. It just costs what it actually costs to manufacture plus 10%, instead of what it costs to manufacture plus 1,100%. I don't know why I started talking about medical tourism. Oh, because I found all these charts for this guy where the US was like 15th in healthcare, and I had to be like, no, look, it's actually not that great anymore. Like even just the cutting edge technology, they don't even have the edge on that anymore in medical technology in the US. Yes, many new procedures are still developed in the US, but it's really important to note that the quality of care, the timeline, the cost, and now even the equipment and the actual procedures are just not the best in the world, and you're paying 10 times as much, 20 times as much, a lot more than you need to be paying for these procedures simply to prop up insurance institutions and banks and private groups of investors. That's what you're paying for. In the US, that's where all the money goes. Why is insulin so much more expensive in the US than most other countries? Because there's a company who owns the patent, and so they can charge whatever they want. That is it. They don't care that you can't afford to pay $2,000 per month. Enough people can pay $2,000 per month that the number of people who are dying because they can't pay $2,000 per month evens out in the checkbook of these companies. And that is not just insulin, which I know has become kind of a flashpoint in the US because US Americans just became aware that they're paying 3,000% more than the whole rest of the world for insulin. That's everything. Aspirin, blood pressure specific medication, hypertension, cholesterol, asthma medications, lung medications in general. Those exact same drugs do not cost a lot to manufacture. They don't anymore. We can manufacture them for pennies, and the US companies that own the patents are charging an extra thousands of percent. Same with surgery procedures in the US. Those procedures don't cost that much. Those root canals don't cost that much. You're getting a very, very small piece of alloyed gold. That doesn't cost $3,000. You're paying for the cost of that medical education that doctor had to leverage against his poverty in the US that he's paying interest on. You're paying for the interest of the loan that is completely unnecessary if your healthcare system is structured logically. You're paying back loan insurance companies and medical companies like medicine companies. Procedures don't cost that much. You can get the exact same procedure, better quality of care in other countries. Where should I go? In general, Thailand. Thailand's good. Thailand's hospitals are great. They're top of tier in the world in almost all fields of medicine at this point. But you can check first, medicaltourism.com. You can check the country that specifically is applicable to your condition or your procedure that you're interested in. And that'll tell you the best country to go to for your medical procedure. I always go on a rant about this, but the U.S. medical system is one of the most frustrating things about that country and one of the most misunderstood. Americans tend to think they're getting a higher quality of care. They are not. They tend to think they're paying for quality. They absolutely are not. And they tend to think that, well, medical care is here and you can't really find it. There's just no other way that I can get medical care. And it's just not true. They can go to so many places with better care for a lower cost. And I always get, well, what about the insurance? It's going to cost so much if I don't have insurance in that country. But it's so much cheaper in these other countries, like Thailand or pretty much any country, to be honest, that it doesn't even matter if you don't get the insurance and just get the procedure done. Copays are so high in the US, and interest on medical procedures is so high in the US that it doesn't even matter if you have insurance or not. The cost of medical care is so low outside of the US that it completely offsets whether you get insurance or not. It offsets the copay you do have to pay if you do get insurance. It offsets paying out of pocket. And you're very likely to get better quality of care, and you're almost certainly likely to get your procedure done in a much faster timeline, way faster, weeks, months quicker, depending on the procedure. And you just don't have to wait. And you'll probably be getting better procedure if you go to medicaltourism.com or go to any of the medical tourism websites and choose one of the first 30 countries in that list that specializes in your condition or procedure. I have to hammer this in because every time someone from the US, which is very often, tells me about their medication costs, I'm like, that's insane. That's how much you would spend per year if you jumped a border and bought them here. And it's totally legal. It's the same drug you're taking now. It's the same medicine, same quality and everything. It just doesn't cost 10 times as much. Oh my gosh, there's so much more to talk about. Okay, real quick, let's get on some food real quick. Mollejitas. They're chicken hearts or chicken gizzards. I'm not actually sure because they had the texture of chicken hearts, but it translated as gizzard, which I don't usually like. But these mollejitas were really, 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 really good. As good as Chinese chicken hearts, which I love. But they didn't taste it. Yeah, I'm just going to check. They are gizzards. Okay. So I don't like gizzards in China. I don't think that's just something they don't cook well enough that I like. Anyway, that I have tried in China so far. Maybe I just didn't try the right ones. But they're great here because they taste like the texture of Chinese chicken hearts, which I do absolutely love the texture, taste, everything of. And that's what these gizzards taste like here. They are delicious little barbecued, brown sauce, grilled, tasty little bits of meat that are heart is my favorite cut of meat, and that's what these taste like. So it's a firmer meat, but you can bite through it easily, but it has a very strong, meaty texture. It's fantastic. So these gizzards are great. They have mollejitas here, and I recommend them if you come to Peru. Just another varied dish in Peru that is fantastic. Chicken huacate. Interesting dish. Basically just a chicken leg, rice, and a couple vegetables, and then swamped in this green mint, pepper, garlic sauce that is extremely unique. I don't think I've been anywhere that, maybe Morocco would be the closest, that really catches this minty, savory, spiced herb flavor in some of their dishes. But this was very unique, this Peruvian thing, and I could definitely see myself getting used to it. It's very tasty. Huacate. Just another cool word. That's the other thing. Everything sounds cool because it's all Quechua, so there's lots of Q's and Oaxaca and lots of cool words everywhere. So food's really good, but it also sounds cool. You know what's been interesting since I went to Central and South America this year for the first time? In restaurants, I'll watch TV shows, and I really noticed it here. You know what? That's not true because I noticed it in real life. in Panama, especially, I noticed, like when in America, if there's a Spanish-speaking character, they look typically typically Central South American. Their skin is tan, their hair is jet black, they usually have a mustache or some kind of Latin American facial hair. They're just, if they're on TV and they're a Latin American character, then they look Latin American. And then I went south of the border and I was like, oh, this is quite ethnically varied. There are a lot of light-skinned people in Latin American countries, and there are quite a lot of dark-skinned people in Latin American countries. There are black and white people in Latin American countries, is what I'm saying, that are totally local and that do not look like your typical U.S. Latin American character, which because every single character in U.S. television and movies who is from a Spanish-speaking country looks typically Spanish, according to U.S. sensibilities, I figured south of the U.S. border, a lot of these countries would have much less ethnic diversity than they have. I just figured everyone would look how U.S. movies and television portray Latin American, Central, and South American countries, and I was totally wrong. There are a lot of Asian people, there are a lot of white people, there are a lot of black people, and there are typical Latin American, as U.S. portrays them, looking people. But there's a ton of ethnic diversity in all of these countries, and I think it's crazy that I can't anyway right now recall a character who speaks Spanish in a U.S. television or show that doesn't have the same suntanned skin, is not wearing the same cowboy hat that workers wear in the U.S. It's just crazy to me thinking back on my whole life of TV shows and movies in the U.S. and every character from a Spanish-speaking country looking the same and having the same facial hair and even having the same accent, which is insane because they're totally different. But the physical appearance is crazy because, yeah, these countries, Central South American, very ethnically diverse, and you would never know it if your experience, like mine, was seeing Central and South American countries in U.S. TV shows and movies, which are incredibly ethnically one note with Latin American characters. That was really interesting to me. I noticed it first in Panama, really, because there's a huge Caribbean influence. So you have a lot of black people, and you have a lot of white people, and you have a lot of Asian people. There's just a huge, very, very ethnically diverse country. Or I can say at least a super ethnically diverse city. It looks like as ethnically diverse as, or more so, frankly, than a lot of American cities. And I think that's particularly interesting because a source of pride, as it should be for a lot of U.S. Americans, is how culturally and ethnically diverse they are. Like, that's one of the best things about the country, for sure, about the U.S. It positively affects our food, our music. Every aspect of U.S. American culture is enriched by their multiculturalism and ethnic diversity. And I was pleasantly surprised that ethnic diversity isn't a sole U.S. treasure. Like, if you're in China, it's easy to think like, oh, there's no ethnic diversity here, because there is very little. And a lot of countries are like that. But the Americas, Central South America, really surprised me in how ethnically and culturally diverse it was. I certainly, especially Asian influence, I did not expect this much Asian influence and this high an Asian population in Central and South America. But there are. People, it's interesting. Sometimes people don't even, I'm very white, but sometimes people they hear my accent first and then they just start talking to me and even ask me, are you from Peru? After like a few sentences, because they're like, wait a minute, are you not local? But the fact that I look so white doesn't make them think, he can't be local, because there are white people in Central and South America and there are black people in Central South America. So there's not this automatic, if you're in China and you don't look Chinese, then they're like, you're not from here. But the ethnic diversity is so much greater in Central South America that they don't have that automatic. They're much more accepting in general of ethnic diversity, I'll say. Just an interesting little point I noticed when watching TV in a restaurant, and I was like, they have like a white actor and a black actor and a tan actor all speaking Spanish. And I was like, that white woman speaking fluent Spanish because she's a native Peruvian or whatever, would never be cast in a U.S. television show or movie. She's too white, so she's not allowed to be a native from another country. And that got me thinking about how valuable ethnic and cultural diversity is in general, and how I've seen a lot of it in countries I didn't expect to see it in. Let's close it out with this thing I think I mentioned before, but I didn't delete. I laughed out loud watching Star Trek when Data was stuck in a Chinese finger trap. Do people still say Chinese finger trap, or should I just say finger trap now? Data was playing with a finger trap in Star Trek. He got stuck. It was pretty funny. Brent Spiner is so funny. I can see why Data is a phenomenon. He's great. All right, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening. You can talk to me at bitofarambler@gmail.com or bitofarambler on Lemmy and Blue Sky. And, I guess on Twitch, if you want those questions answered. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.